My boyfriend dumped me because I was a defective Omega. So, I decided to seduce his older brother. I flirted and teased for over 2 weeks. But he didn't budge. But when I actually kissed him during his rut and pressed my foot against his lower abdomen, his eyes turned red. And he panted. Breath ragged. You only know how to step on me. Don't you plan on moving a little? 1. Jasper. No, Omega is completely scentless. I never felt any passion being with you. Landon said. And I didn't show much reaction. Instead, I calmly lit a cigarette. Raising my eyes to meet his, I gave him a lazy grin. You're that good at passing the buck? Why not apply for a Guinness World Record? Landon's face stiffened slightly. He stared at me for a few seconds. Then chuckled. So, the fact that I tolerated you this long? I've already done more than enough. I flicked the cigarette onto the ground and crushed it under my shoe. You done talking? Landon couldn't figure out what I was planning. Hesitated. Then nodded. I smiled. And then punched him hard in the face, following it up with a swift kick to the gut. He stumbled backward and slammed into the wall. As he slumped there looking completely wrecked, I walked up to him and patted his cheek. You're the one who cheated. And I could have respected you if you just had the guts to break up with me cleanly. But instead, you had to throw dirt on my name. Fine. I'll remember this. This beating. Consider it my breakup gift. Landon's face was a thundercloud. He couldn't squeeze a single word out for a long time. I gave a satisfied smirk. Get lost. 2. Back home. I smoked almost a whole pack on the balcony. Because my second gender presented so late. And there was no one around at the time. I had to grit my teeth and suffer through it alone in my room. By the time I woke up, I was already in the hospital. The doctor said my gland had been severely damaged. I wouldn't develop a scent like other Omegas. I let out a slow puff of smoke, gazing out at the endless night. Unusually calm. Thinking of Landon. I took another drag. If I ignore what a piece of work he is, he was at least decent looking. When he first confessed, he seemed sincere and serious. So I agreed to date him. In the beginning, Landon was a gentle, considerate boyfriend. Even after learning I didn't have a cent, he'd still look at me with all this fake pity. But over time, the real him showed. Started flirting with other Omegas behind my back. I always knew. But I just couldn't let go. Still didn't expect the bastard to use such a disgusting excuse to dump me. Honestly, letting him off with just one beating was a gift. I'm the kind of person who never lets things go. That's when I had this crazy, wild idea. Landon had a brother. His name was Miles. I'd seen him before, face, build, the whole package. If I could get with his brother and show up in front of Landon, I wonder how he'd react. Once I had the idea, I acted. But when I actually met Miles, I regretted it immediately. He was dressed in tailored designer wear, lounging lazily on the couch, half his face hidden in shadow. Even from a distance, he radiated this unapproachable aura. But then I thought of Landon again. Pulling my thin coat tighter, I lifted my chin and walked over to Miles under everyone's gaze. From what I'd dug up, Miles had never had an Omega around. Not even a beta. Rumor was, he might be asexual. Or into alphas. Figures. A man like that, he'd be into something dangerous. And Miles? He was the most dangerous of them all. The alpha of alphas. I boldly sat beside him, leaning my whole body onto his shoulder. Everyone in the private room went dead silent, staring over at us in tense shock. Compared to them, Miles was cool as ever. He turned slightly, his sharp eyes lowering to look at me. Calm. Quiet. Unreadable. Cold sweat soaked the thin sheer shirt under my jacket. He finally looked away. His voice slow and casual. So wild. Ha! Does Landon know about this? 3. I froze for a second. Didn't expect Miles to have such a sharp memory. That time we met. It was just a quick glance, and he still remembered me. Before I could come up with a response, Miles casually lifted his eyes and swept the room with a look. Everyone immediately turned away, pretending to mind their own business. Someone had the nerve to joke around and asked Miles. "This one's an Omega. Kind of interesting. Why not let me have him?" Miles didn't push me away, just let me lean against his shoulder. I narrowed my eyes and glanced at the guy who spoke. Wow. Arm in arm with 2 Omegas already. And still not enough. Real piece of work. Looking at the way the Omegas next to him were dressed, I instinctively glanced down at myself. Pretty modest by comparison. Miles' voice drifted down from above. Cold and indifferent. Sure. Ask him yourself. What a bastard. Anyone with a brain could tell I was there for Miles. If he'd just said no, who would dare say otherwise? But instead, he threw it back on me. I forced a polite smile at the guy and leaned into Miles even more. My eyes stayed glued to his face. I'd rather stick with you. Miles didn't say anything. He just picked up a pack of cigarettes from the table. Slipped one between his lips. I quickly grabbed the lighter. Let me light it for you. As I spoke, I slid my coat off my shoulders. So when Landon turned to look, what he saw was the coat slipping down, revealing the sheer shirt I had on underneath. Miles' gaze paused. Then he gave a slow, amused smirk. I grinned. Let me light it for you. His fingers drummed idly on his knee. Sure. Was this going too smoothly? Before I could process, Miles suddenly leaned in. The distance closed, my pupils shrank on instinct. He grabbed my hand tight, pulling it up. Didn't you want to light it? Come on. Then. My hand was trembling as I flicked the lighter, barely aware of my own movements. Only once the cigarette was lit did Miles finally lean back. I licked my lips, my mouth felt dry. Miles' presence. It was even more intense than Landon's. And it just made me more excited. I reached up and wrapped an arm around his neck, using the motion to swing my leg over and straddle his lap. Grinning, I asked, "Did I light that cigarette to your satisfaction?" The fact that Miles hadn't pushed me away was already shocking enough. But now I'd actually climbed onto his lap. Everyone in the room looked like they'd stopped breathing. Landon leaned back with a cigarette between his fingers, just silently watching, noticing his gaze lower slightly. I followed his line of sight and realized Miles was staring at my chest. More precisely, my pecs. Satisfied? Miles suddenly said, taking a long drag from his cigarette. Meeting my eyes. He exhaled the smoke in my face, instantly clouding my vision in gray and white. Then his large, hot hand landed firmly on my chest, pressing down. I flinched. Miles spoke calmly. What do you think? If I pressed the cigarette here, would it leave a mark? 4. My eyes flew wide. He didn't look like he was joking. I shoved his hand away and jumped off his lap. Freak. I wanted to seduce him. But not with this twisted crap. That's his own thing. I pulled a fake smile and said with mock politeness, "Oops. My bad. Wrong person." Miles' expression didn't change. He nodded slowly. Wrong person. Yeah. Wrong person. He took another deep drag, then finally stood up. Unhurried. One thought flashed through my mind. Miles is tall. Got it, he said softly. Then he took the half-smoked cigarette and pressed it to my lips. Seeing the surprise in my eyes, he added in a calm voice, "Next time, don't pick the wrong target. Otherwise." He paused, Then smiled. You'll end up completely ruined. With that, he walked around me and left. It took me a while to snap out of it. I pulled the cigarette from my lips. It was almost all smoked down. And crushed it hard into the ashtray. What the hell was that supposed to mean? When I stepped out of the private room, I ran straight into Landon. He had an Omega with him. Landon spotted me too. And walked over. Jasper. We're already done. Stop clinging to me. Some people are just that full of themselves. Always thinking there's some kind of prize. Reality? They're like a dog turd left out for 3 days. Rotten and reeking. I let out a cold laugh. Please. Don't flatter yourself. Who said I was looking for you? Landon gave a low chuckle. Like he'd seen through me. Jasper. A normal Omega isn't like you. No one's gonna want an Omega with 0 cent. Relax. I got checked. Brain still intact. I replied coldly. And trust me, you're no longer appealing. Dog turd. Landon's face turned sour. He snapped. Defective Omega. I took a deep breath. Fine. Even if I get burned by Miles' cigarette, I'm going to get him. 5. Miles didn't come to this club often. But I started showing up every day. Waiting for him. And finally, I got lucky. When I saw Miles walk into a private room, I took a long drag from my cigarette. Then stubbed it out. Grabbed 2 bottles of alcohol. And walked straight toward his room. He had just sat down when I pushed the door open. The others inside turned to look. Then glanced over at Miles. I didn't hesitate. Walked right up to him with the bottles. Raised an eyebrow. Drink with me. Miles' eyes landed on me. Narrowing slightly. Then he slowly looked up. What kind of drink? I glanced at the bottle in my hand. Didn't know the brand. But it looked expensive. Miles didn't look too interested. Before I could answer, he turned his gaze away. Tonight, I'd gone all out. Wore a deep V-neck. Sultry and bold. I'd used every trick in the book trying to lure him in. Last time, he didn't seem totally against it. So I figured he might actually like it. Miles looked like the type who enjoyed a little wild. Didn't expect someone like him to go for this. But hey, guess I was his type. Snapping back to the moment, I lifted a leg and sat myself down on his lap. The drink doesn't matter, I said. What matters is how we drink it. Miles stared straight at me. His voice was low. How do you want to drink it? I slowly said. Feed it. That's right, mouth to mouth. It was something I'd learned from those club boys. They said a lot of guests were into it. Miles was a guest too. Maybe he liked it. I cracked open the bottle. Tipped it back and let the liquid flow into my mouth. It spilled over my lips. Ran down my neck. Soaking the front of my shirt. I swallowed. Then smiled at him. Wanna play? Miles' throat bobbed. Then he said in a hoarse voice. Let's play. 5. When Miles said, let's play, I was briefly stunned. That easy? I thought I'd have to work harder, flirt a little. Sweet talk him. Maybe even beg a bit. Didn't expect him to agree so quickly. But very soon, I regretted it. Because what Miles meant by play was very different from what I had in mind. Every time I tried to take a drink, he'd grab my hand or my face and make me keep swallowing. I couldn't keep up. Wine spilled from the corners of my mouth. Miles watched and chuckled. So eager to seduce me. Too bad, I'm not really into Landon's leftovers. With that, he finally let go of me. I coughed hard and gasped for air. But he just leaned back lazily, letting me stay on his lap like nothing happened. Just like last time. My tolerance for alcohol isn't great. After that much, my mind was already starting to slow down. Damn it. Then Miles tilted his head and motioned at me. Your shirt, it's soaked. I looked down instinctively. Not just the shirt, my whole chest was stained with red wine. Couldn't help but curse him again in my head. Freak. Then, out of nowhere, Miles raised his knee. I wasn't prepared and fell forward, straight into his arms. Like a forced hug. I sniffed instinctively. Miles. You smell kinda good. He didn't move. Something felt off. It took me a second. But then I realized, my face was near his scent gland. He wasn't wearing a scent blocker. They say only S-class alphas can go without scent suppressants because they have full control over their pheromones. Life really isn't fair. All the good stuff goes to one guy. Lime. Smells nice. I murmured. Nose twitching as I complimented him. Miles said flatly. Is that so? Then suddenly, a strong hand pressed down on my head, keeping me in place. His voice was low and intense. If it smells that good, then enjoy it. 6. I struggled hard. But Miles didn't budge. Fine. I stopped fighting and just lay there against his shoulder. Then I opened my mouth and lightly licked his scent gland. The next second, I was shoved off, hard. I hit the floor, looking up at his cold, dark stare. I licked my lips. Sorry. Couldn't help it. You smell too good. Before leaving, he grabbed me and slammed me against the wall. His hand gripped my neck tightly. Is Landon that useless? Couldn't satisfy you? I didn't fight back. Just let him hold me there. Different. I like it a little rougher. Miles stared at me for a long moment. Then let go. He took out a handkerchief and started wiping his hands like I was filthy. Funny how he didn't bother wiping the spot I licked. Still had my spit on it. What a pretender. Jasper. He said coldly. Stop throwing yourself at me. I'm not interested. I didn't believe him. His reaction just now was way too intense for someone not interested. 7. What Miles said and what he did were never the same. So when I showed up in a cropped top that day, he only raised a brow. Emotionless as ever. I almost laughed. People were already used to me pestering Miles. At most. They glanced over. Then quickly looked away again when they saw his icy stare. I copied those male models, hooked a finger under his chin playfully. Long time no see. His eyes narrowed slightly. A little too flirtatious. Maybe. A little. Bold. He suddenly grabbed my wrist. Grip tight. Didn't I make myself clear? Still chasing after me like this? Boo. Someone's grumpy. I leaned in and sat right down on his lap. Yeah. I like chasing. But it'd be nice if you made the first move. He was silent for a while. Then finally let go of me. Didn't even look at me as he said. Leave. Sometimes. It's good to listen. So I left. And waited for him in the parking lot. When Miles came down, I was crouched next to his car. Like a stray cat with nowhere to go. I kept my head down. All I could see were black leather shoes. Then pant legs. And his voice dropped from above. You really don't give up. Do you? Of course I didn't. I stood up. But I'd been crouched too long, my vision went black for a second. I stumbled right into him. Sorry. Got dizzy. Miles let out a cold laugh. Before I could recover, he shoved me into the car and got in himself. That familiar lime scent quickly filled the entire vehicle. I looked up. His expression was hard to read. Something clicked. Oh no, he was in rut. Alphas in rut are terrifying. They claim territory. And all their hidden urges come boiling to the surface. Most omegas would run as far away as possible. But me? I swung a leg over and sat on his lap. Wrapped my arms around his neck and grinned. So? You're in rut. Ha! His Adam's apple bobbed. He stared right at me. And what about it? I didn't answer. Just leaned down and kissed him. He hesitated for a second, then took control. The kiss lasted nearly 5 minutes. By the time he dragged me out of the car, into the elevator, and threw me onto a hotel bed, my lips were burning. Has this man not kissed anyone in 100 years? He grabbed my chin. Voice low. You came to me, Jasper. I laughed and lifted a foot to press against his abdomen. Yup. I came willingly. His eyes were red. Breath heavy. He grabbed my ankle. And is that all you came to do? Just step on me? 8. Like hell. I tried to roll off the bed. But Miles grabbed my ankle. Last time he told me to leave. Now he wouldn't even let go of my foot. I kicked at him. He grunted, not in pain. But pleasure. I didn't wait to confirm. Jumped off the bed and ran as far as I could. Just remembered I left the stove on, bye. Slipped and ran for it. Outside. I wiped the sweat off my forehead. Damn. Alphas in Rut were scary. S-Class ones? Worse. He almost triggered my heat. Jasper. What are you doing here again? I looked up. Landon. Not far off. Of course. No matter where I go, this guy shows up. He walked over and scanned me up and down. Eyes narrowing at my lips. You. He stopped. Then his face changed. Why do you smell like an alpha? Alpha scent? I sniffed myself. Sure enough. A faint lime scent lingered. Must have stuck from being in the car with Miles too long. Didn't expect Landon's nose to be that sharp. I raised a brow. His face looked like he'd been slapped. Doesn't it smell familiar? What are you talking about? I leaned back against the wall. Arms crossed. Voice calm. You don't recognize your brother's scent? 9. One sentence turned Landon's face green. He looked at me in disbelief. Barely managing to say through clenched teeth. What did you say? Can't understand plain language. I raised my voice slightly and sneered. If you're deaf, go get it checked. You can't even smell your own brother's scent. Landon hadn't expected me to get involved with his brother after breaking up with him. His eyes turned bloodshot, he didn't even try to hide it. Jasper. Are you doing this just to get back at me? I nodded slowly. Didn't expect you to be that clever. People passing by cast curious glances our way. They love drama. Landon was momentarily speechless. His anger pent up but with no outlet. I smiled and said. After being with you, I realized your brother. Seeing Landon's face go even paler, I calmly finished. Is way more exciting. 10. For several days, I didn't see Miles. He was probably at home going through his rut phase. When I saw him again, the rut was over. He was back to being well-dressed, polished, and quietly brooding behind the scenes. I leaned on the bar with a drink, raising my glass slightly toward him. Miles paused, then turned and walked toward me. Looking at him, I spoke first. Long time no see. Miles said nothing. Just stared, acting like I didn't notice. I casually asked. Are you past your rut now? After a long pause, Miles gave a meaningful smile. Thanks to you. Yes. That meant business. Good. I was worried he wouldn't come find me. Now it was easy. But when we entered the private room, I caught a furious, disbelieving glare. It was Landon. My smile froze. Miles acted normally and asked me, do you know anyone here? Seeing Miles smile, I realized he was doing this on purpose. Damn. He was getting back at me. My voice wasn't loud but clear. Yes. My ex. Your brother is here too. The room fell silent instantly. People who often hung out with Miles stared wide-eyed. My ex broke up with me. Then hooked up with his brother. Now all three of us in one room. It was a battlefield. Miles stayed calm and said, "Say hi." I forced a fake smile. "No thanks. I'm busy seducing you." 11. Landon heard what I said and his face turned ashen. He took a slow breath and walked toward me, looking down like he owned the place. His voice was nearly a growl. "Jasper. Cut the crap. Haven't I embarrassed myself enough already?" Who was he ordering around? Landon's pride was bruised, a former boyfriend now hooked on his brother. And the fact that I had bragged to him once about how much more exciting his brother was. No alpha could tolerate that. Especially with me pressed against Miles like this. Landon couldn't stand it. Miles sat on the couch, leisurely lighting a cigarette, acting like he was above it all. That wasn't going to fly. I pushed Landon away and plopped down on Miles' lap. "It's just a face. Right?" I didn't care. Miles' low chuckle whispered in my ear. "Jasper. You really aren't afraid to die." Without looking at him, I ran my hand over his thigh. In a voice only he could hear, I said, "If I were afraid, your brother wouldn't have been so rebellious that night." That night at the hotel, Miles had reacted to me beneath him. If I hadn't run fast, I'd be dead by now. Landon quickly came over and pulled me off Miles' lap. He took a deep breath and said to Miles, "Bro. He's just messing with you. Don't take it seriously." Messing around? That mess went all the way to the bed. Miles said nothing. Just smoked. I shrugged off Landon and sat back down on Miles' lap. Cold smile. Who's messing around? 12. Landon saw Miles didn't push me away. Not even a hint of resistance. His expression shifted slightly. "Bro. You guys." Miles tilted his head and, without missing a beat, shoved the half-smoked cigarette into my lips. Landon gave a forced smile. "Jasper is my boyfriend." He chewed on the cigarette butt, damp with saliva. Hearing that, I bit down on the cigarette twice out of instinct. How could Landon say something so shameless? Miles mercilessly turned my face toward him, fingers brushing my chin. His reaction was casual. "Is that so?" I snapped back to reality and immediately denied it. "No." Out of Landon's sight, Miles slid his hand under my shirt and rubbed my waist firmly. Ticklish. Before I denied it, he lightly pinched me, eyes full of warning. Hearing my denial, Landon clenched his teeth. "Jasper. What did you say?" I turned and sneered. "We broke up. Didn't we?" What boyfriend nonsense. Landon wanted to argue, but seeing Miles' impassive face, he swallowed his words. Miles chuckled. "He says he's not your boyfriend. Go find your real boyfriend." His voice was flat. "I'm going to have some fun with him." 13. Landon left unwillingly. When the door closed behind him, I tried to get off Miles' lap, but his hands pressed firmly on my waist. "If you like sitting, then sit." Looking at Miles, I smiled, leaning close to his ear. "Are you serious?" Miles raised a brow. "Not sitting." "Then pick another spot." "Sitting." I smiled. "I'm sitting." Miles kept lighting one cigarette after another. With that weird habit of pushing half-smoked ones into my lips, made me think he was a bit twisted. The room's lights flickered, the atmosphere intense. Nothing cooled down after the earlier drama. After sitting on Miles' lap for a while, my legs got tired. I shifted slightly, and his hand moved too. He even slid from my waist to above it. I froze. Quickly pressed his hand down, the heat from his palm spreading over the skin. And my ear tingled too. Miles' eyelids drooped. He looked at the hand holding his. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't expect Miles to be so bold. Acting up even outside. Then his hand changed. He squeezed hard on my chest. I shuddered and instinctively gripped his leg. You pervert. Miles didn't deny it. Never met a bigger pervert. I took a deep breath and forcefully pulled his hand away. Smirking at him. Miles tapped his fingers. Then suddenly changed tone. What does your scent smell like? Cream. I got off his lap. You're imagining things. I don't have a scent. Miles said for sure. I smelled it. I was stunned. Miles chuckled lightly and said casually. Just now. When I pinched you. You twitched, I smelled it. He paused. Pretty nice. Actually. 14. Only one thought ran through my mind, Miles can actually smell my pheromones? But do I even have pheromones? I grabbed Miles and pulled him out to the bathroom. Locking the door behind us. Miles finally spoke. Do it here. Hearing that, I realized Miles' brain was full of nothing but dirty thoughts. Thinking about what was coming next. I got a bit nervous. Ignored him. The doctor said my glands were abnormal, my pheromones were barely detectable. Even if I had any, they were faint and rare. No one could smell them. So compared to other omegas, it was hard for me to get pregnant. I pulled down the collar at the back of my neck. Now smell again. Can you still smell it? A long silence followed. No movement behind me. No words. I turned around confused and met Miles' thoughtful gaze. Jasper. Miles said in a low voice. Are you treating me like a dog? Smelling the glands, yeah. Kind of like that. But, Miles chuckled and stepped closer. Smells okay. But what about a bite? 15. I grew impatient. I didn't care who Miles was anymore. Are you going to smell or not? Yes. Right after he said that, I felt Miles' breath on the back of my neck. It was ticklish. And hot. After a moment, he was still smelling. I got annoyed. Still can't smell it. Inside, I felt a little disappointed. Miles said nothing. Until suddenly the glands got wet, I widened my eyes. Miles was licking me. My elbow instinctively bent backward, but Miles grabbed it firmly. What a pervert. I was pinned down until he finished licking. Then he lazily let go. I smell it now. Creamy. 16. After that, I was dazed for days. Miles really could smell my pheromones. That was troublesome. I still couldn't fully believe it. After all these years, no one had smelled my pheromones. When I found Miles again, he was with a scantily dressed Omega. I hadn't seen him for just a few days and he was already moving on. I walked up quickly and pushed that Omega away. Sitting on Miles' lap myself. The Omega's eyes were wide, looking at Miles with a pitiful expression. Her voice was soft and adorable, definitely the kind of Omega that makes you want to protect her. Miles didn't even look at her, instead. He asked me, "What's this supposed to mean?" I frowned. Voice neither too loud nor too soft. Miles. How about you smell my glands again? That sounded easy to misinterpret. Glands are pretty private. And inviting someone to smell them was basically like inviting them to bed. The little Omega's eyes widened, forgetting to look pitiful anymore. Miles was momentarily stunned. Then his lips curved into a lazy smile as he bit the cigarette. Might as well bite you too. 17. I pulled Miles out. Got into his car. How about smelling again? Maybe you smelled wrong last time. Right after I said that, I suddenly felt wrong. Why was I so hot? Why was my head dizzy? I turned to see Miles looking shocked. Did you not turn on the AC? It's kind of hot. Miles raised his hand and pressed on my glands. Caught off guard, I couldn't help but let out a little yell. Miles' voice was low and husky. Jasper. Are you a flirt? Out here trying to seduce people? The gland stimulation made me want to scream again. But I bit my tongue hard. And no. Miles suddenly leaned in close to my neck and shoulder and softly said, "This whole area is full of your pheromones. Can you smell it?" I grabbed Miles' hand, trying to make him let go. But he gripped tighter. The lime-scented pheromones filled the whole space. In heat. You must want alpha pheromones. Right? Did Landon ever soothe you like this? With every word. Miles pressed harder. He really thought I was a soft target. Miles. Let go of me. No. Miles said quietly. You asked me to smell your pheromones. Now I am. I got angry. I asked you to smell. Not to be such a pervert. Miles chuckled. His voice low and smooth. Jasper. Nobody tells you that asking an alpha to smell your glands means one thing. Ha. 18. S-rank alphas are just perverts. Miles wrapped me in his pheromones, constantly pumping his scent into me, biting so it hurt and tingled. His hand wouldn't stop sneaking into my pants. I got mad. Miles. Let go of me. Damn it. Miles didn't move. His eyes were red. Did I really awaken his pervert side? As an omega with barely any pheromones. During heat I just used suppressants. This was the first time my pheromones mixed with an alpha's. Miles chuckled softly, biting my ear. You dressed so sexy to seduce me before. But now that we're actually about to get somewhere, you're not so willing. He spoke while his hand kept moving. I was so stimulated I couldn't speak. When it was over, I collapsed on the seat like a dead fish. Miles just smiled and pumped more pheromones into my glands. Smell it? You're covered in my scent. I turned my face away, thinking how to kill Miles without breaking the law. Miles took me home. You're in heat these days. You need calming. I said flatly. Word by word. Fuck off. I can use suppressants. Miles stared at me. Smirked. Suppressants can make you feel good too. 19. During my heat, I stayed at Miles' place. I was covered in his scent. When Landon came, I just happened to walk out of the room and locked eyes with him. Landon jumped up in shock. Jasper? He shouted. What are you doing here? I glanced at Miles lounging on the sofa. He brought me. Landon turned his head. Bro. You. Miles cut him off coolly. Anything else? If not, go home. Landon didn't dare defy Miles and left begrudgingly. After the door closed, I pulled my phone out and removed Landon from my blacklist. Get ready to call me sister-in-law. After sending, I pulled Landon back in. That message was just to scare him. Who'd really be his sister-in-law? Miles got up and walked over. His eyes half closed. Completely cut things off with Landon. I instinctively turned off my phone, rolling my eyes. You think I'm you? Miles chuckled softly. Better be. Or else. 20. The next time I saw Landon, he took advantage of me being alone and blocked my way. I frowned, full of disdain. Something you need? Landon, barely controlling his anger, asked. Are you together with my brother now? I looked up and smiled coldly. What? Only you can date others. But I can't. I never told you to date my brother. His words were forced out through clenched teeth. I ignored him. I raised my foot to leave. But Landon grabbed my hand. You're only with my brother to get back at me. Right? I didn't answer and shook his hand off hard. Seeing my expression, Landon knew he was right. He pulled out a cigarette and lit it. If my brother finds out, do you think he'll let you go? Of course not. When Miles found out, I was just about to run. But he caught me perfectly. Jasper, you've really crossed the line. Playing with me? Miles took me into the car with a cold face and sped off. He didn't give me a chance to explain. When the car stopped, he grabbed my collar and dragged me upstairs. Miles' presence was terrifying. I struggled instinctively. Maybe I struggled too much because Miles stopped. He turned and sneered. If you don't mind staying here. That works too. When Miles says something, he means it. I didn't dare move. Landon was a bastard. To get back at me, he told Miles everything. Which got me caught. Miles saw I wasn't moving and sneered as he dragged me back inside. He threw me onto the bed and pinned me down without mercy. Jasper. What did I say? You really ask for a beating? I struggled fiercely, covering his mouth with my hands. Let me explain. Miles' face stayed cold. I prefer to hear it in bed. That meant I was doomed. I yelled with all I had. I swear I didn't mean to play you. You damn well listen. At first. Yes. I got close to you to get back at Landon. But that was just the beginning. Miles sneered. Don't tell me you've started having feelings for me now. My heart pounded wildly. I struggled harder. Suddenly, Miles got off me, took a pack of cigarettes from the drawer, and went to the balcony. Without looking back, he said, "Get lost." I practically crawled away. 21. The next time I saw Miles, it was again at the club. He acted like I was invisible. I quickly dodged him too. After hiding for half a month, I ran into Miles during his sensitive period again. Terrifying. Even worse. Because Miles had marked me before, I was especially sensitive to his pheromones, making my legs weak. The room was empty. Only Miles remained. He leaned against the back of the sofa, eyes closed tight. I pulled my gaze back from the door crack and swallowed nervously. Should I go in or not? If I went in, I'd get used. If I didn't, I'd get caught later and be in deep trouble. While I was struggling, the door suddenly swung open. Miles seemed to sense something and met my eyes. His presence was intense. Our eyes locked. I nervously scratched my foot. Miles squinted slightly. What do you want? He stepped closer, engulfing me. Jasper. My patience with you has limits. 22. Even after getting home, I didn't understand what Miles meant. What does it mean that his patience with me has limits? I leaned against the railing, lazily puffing on a cigarette. We're all adults. Everyone takes what they need. Some things don't need to be said aloud to be clear. Until now, I had to admit, Miles was interested in me. Otherwise, he wouldn't play these games with me. I swallowed and turned around, one hand bracing on the railing, looking into the distance. Sometimes, Miles made me feel better than Landon did. My heart would race uncontrollably. So annoying. Until the cigarette burned out. I exhaled the last smoke into the night. Better not think about it. 23. I don't know how Landon heard I'd dumped Miles. That idiot even sent a message mocking me. I quickly blacklisted Landon again. I didn't expect Miles to come find me. Done hiding? I looked at Miles. He was the same as before. Not really. Even I didn't believe it. Because I really had been hiding. Miles threw the cigarette butt to the ground. Made me come find you and you're not going to say anything? The wind blew my bangs. My mind blanked for a moment. Miles leaned on the car, just looking at me. What do you want me to say? I relaxed and raised an eyebrow. Like, want to sleep with you? Miles actually nodded. Sounds good. I stepped forward and placed my hand on his chest. Your heart's beating fast. Yeah. I'll dig it out and give it to you. He said it without emotion, as if it was nothing special. I pulled my hand away and stepped back. Then I don't want it. I pulled a cigarette from Miles' pocket and put it in my mouth. Miles chuckled, eyes fixed on my face. Suddenly said, "You held your first cigarette this casually too." I was stunned. Instinctively said, "What?" Miles pulled back his gaze. "Bad memory. You even borrowed the lighter from me." My memory was hazy. But soon, I recalled his words. That was freshman year. When my dad had a stroke and was hospitalized, everything was chaotic. Money was tight. Those days were hard. That cigarette was from a roommate. No lighter. I just held it in my mouth. Until I saw a man on the street holding a cigarette. I nervously asked to borrow a light. I clumsily finished the cigarette and coughed a lot. A blurry face suddenly became clear, overlapping with Miles' face. "That guy was you?" Miles said nothing. I asked again. "Miles, what did you mean by your patience with me is limited?" 24. That was the first time Miles saw Jasper. He didn't believe in love at first sight. But Jasper strangely attracted him. He watched Jasper cough, covering his face, choking on his first cigarette. He handed him a bottle of water. "You should smoke less." At that time, Jasper looked upset but gulped down the water. Still gave Miles a sideways glance. "You smoke too, don't you?" "Now you're lecturing me." Jasper really was like a little firecracker. Strongly attracted Miles to come closer. Miles really started smoking less. Later, Miles often came to the university area. Until he ran into Jasper with his junior, Landon. He learned from his brother they were dating. Countless nights. Miles regretted not taking the initiative. At least to have a chance. So later, even knowing Jasper approached him with a purpose, Miles didn't mind. He just watched Jasper make the first move. And all he had to do was respond occasionally. Miles snapped out of his thoughts and looked at me. "You thought exactly what you think." That one sentence made my heart race again. I suddenly came back to myself and smiled. "Miles, has anyone ever told you you're secretly wild?" 25. I pulled Miles upstairs. He didn't resist. I placed my hands on either side, pinning him down. "Miles, I'm asking you again, can you really smell my pheromones?" Miles swallowed. "Yeah. Creamy scent." As he said this, his hand unconsciously covered my gland, gently kneading. I murmured, "No one's ever smelled my pheromones because I'm a defective Omega." I looked up at Miles. He quietly stared back at me. "You're the first. And you'll be the last." I lifted my head and kissed him. "Forgot to tell you. At first I did approach you because of Landon. But later, things changed." Miles let me kiss him without resistance. I smiled. "Miles, I want to smell your pheromones." Soon, the scent of lime filled my nostrils. It began wrapping around me again. "Jasper, you're not a defective Omega." I blinked and cupped Miles' face with my hands. "Can you bite me?" Miles' voice was hoarse. "Yeah." I thought the label, defective Omega, would follow me forever. Until you said, "I'm not defective." As pheromones flooded my glands, I heard Miles say, "You're my Omega."